Good morning, all. Let's start the session. 2 minutes. I'll share my screen. So today we'll discuss about functions. Okay. So we'll discuss about functions. So first, what is a function? So if you observe, function is nothing but a self-contained block with set of statements, or we can call them as instructions, that are executed when called. Okay, so understand the definition of a function. Function is a self-contained block with some set of statements, or you can call them as your instructions, and they are executed only when called. So here we have many things to understand when you are talking about the definition of the function. So why are we calling it as a self-contained block? What is the statements and what is this execution phase? So you people have already seen many different programs when you write your main method. So main is also a function. We'll talk about the category later, but you understand here, you write your main method. Okay, you write your main method with some instructions in this main method. Now understand here, main is a function. The statements or instructions which are enclosed in between this open parenthesis and this closed parenthesis, we call it as a self-contained block. So a function is a self-contained block. What does this block contain? Always this block contains some set of statements, or we can also call them as instructions. So whenever you write some set of instructions or whenever you write some set of statements, the main role is to execute those. But when you're talking about functions, those statements will be executed only when called. Okay, there is something called as called function. So you will be having a functions, that is you can have your own functions or you can have your predefined functions, that is about different. But understand, whenever we are talking about functions, these functions will contain some statements. These statements will be executed only some specific call is made. So you may ask, now till this time you forget about you have many functions and everything, but basically we are seeing main method or main function from the beginning of your programming, right? So you may ask me, you may get a doubt like main is executed, right? Whenever you invoke your program in compilation and execution phase, you can see that your main method is executed automatically, but main is not executed automatically, because already I gave the definition that it is any function will be executed only when they are called. So who is calling this main is your operating system. Very simple answer. Main is invoked, or a main is a method, or a main is a process which will be executed by your operating system with the help of system call. This you remember, okay? In any programming language, your main method, either it is Java or your C++ or your C, anywhere, any main method, okay, always will be invoked by your operating system. That is, your processor will make a system call. With the help of system call, you are going to execute the instructions which are we going to define under main function. Now we'll understand here. You have different questions actually, which will be coming under your functions. Like they may ask you definition of the function, and they'll ask you to write the classification of your functions, and they may ask you to write the syntax of function and how many methods or how many ways you can define your syntax. You may have recursion function. Okay, they may ask you the questions on recursion. So most of your expected questions are these things: classification of types of functions, categories of your functions depending on the syntax rule, and the other one is about recursion rule. Okay, these are the basic things which are being frequently asked actually in perspective or JNU. Now there is a scope. They may ask you to write the programs like call by reference or call by values or prime number Fibonacci series. Basically, most of the times factorial prime number Fibonacci series will be asked in your recursion. Okay, we will see that. So now your functions are actually classified into two types. Functions are classified as two types. One is library function, excuse me, or you can call them as predefined functions. Okay, and the other one is user defined function. Okay, your functions are categorized as library or predefined functions, and the other one is user defined functions. Now, what is a predefined method or what is a user defined method? The best thing is whenever you're talking about a term predefined, see, if a user is not capable of changing the definition of any function, okay, if a normal user is not capable of changing the definition of any existing function, then it comes under the category of library or predefined functions. Understand? If a user is not capable of changing the definition, okay, like for example, you have a method like printf. You all know that printf is a function or a method which is predefined and it is used to print. Okay, it is acting as an output function. Now you're not able to modify your definition of your printf. That is, you're not able to modify the internal functioning or internal working model of printf. You will only be using that printf in your program depending on the type of action a user wants. Okay, you're not saying that printf to work as input function. You're not capable of using printf to add two numbers or something. Okay, you're not able to define that. You're only able to use it. So that comes under the category of predefined or library functions. There you can give your examples as printf, scanf, you have square root, you have math functions. Okay, all your math functions you can give as your predefined functions. Okay, now when you're talking about user defined functions, if the if you define any method and if you are able to change the definition from that is, see, why I'm saying that you are able to change is, for example, I have created a method. Let's take, you have a method called as add. Might be the same name can be used by n number of students or n number of people or n number of resource persons, but the internal working, that is whatever the instructions you design under the self-contained block, it is not common for everyone. Might be I might be using my name of add to add two numbers. Some other will use the same name, but the definition might be is working for prime numbers, or some other person will be using add, which is working for some another action. Okay, so if the context, that is, if you are able to change the context of your self-contained block, okay, then it comes under the category of user-defined functions. Under this, the best example is main. So few textbooks still say today even main is a main is a predefined function, but that is very wrong. Main is always comes under the category of user-defined function. Why are we calling main as a user-defined function? Understand. So why do I call main as a user defined function is, see, for example, we have three programs or three systems like P1, P2, and we have P3. Different people like person 1, person 2, person 3. So everyone, in order to execute any programming instruction, he will be writing his own self-contained block, right? So this is the thing which shows you the difference of. Now, as I told you, if you are able to change this self-contained block, the meaning of your self-contained block, if you are able to change, it automatically comes under the category of user-defined. Assume that P1 is a person, he have written main method in order to execute something called as Armstrong number. P2 is a person, he is defining his main method in order to execute some prime number. Let's assume P3 is a person who is defining his main method to print Fibonacci series. If you observe, the naming convention is common for everyone. The program begins from main method, but the definition inside your main is not common for P1, P2, P3. Even the naming convention is same for P1, P2, P3 as programming starts from them. The internal working model of main is different from one person to another person. So as we are able to change the context of your main method or the context of your main body, okay, definitely main comes under the category of user defined function. Okay, that is the reason we call main as a user defined function but not as a predefined function. So the best example for user defined is main, because the method name might be same, but the method definition is changing from one person to another. So in this, as I told, main is a function which has been invoked by your operating system. Now under this, whenever I have a program, so I'll write a simple sample example. You can give you a sample example so that everyone can understand. So inside main, I have a function called a. I have a definition like this. Just I'm giving you a sample. Print I am alphabet A. Okay, now here we have many things to understand. Main is a function. A is also a function. Both are user defined function. Now this is called as definition part. So this is called as calling function. Sorry, called function, not calling function. Called function. This becomes calling function. And this is definition part. Okay, we have a user defined function by name called as a. Who is calling a? If you observe, main, inside main, you are calling a function by name called as a. So main is becoming calling function and a is becoming called function. Now the definition of a I have written here. Okay. Now this is nothing but you call it as definition. This is declaration. This is followed by definition. Okay. So when you call or when you execute main method, definitely your program starts from here. You have a method called, the control will be transferred here and you will execute the statement called as I am alphabet A. After this is printed, again who called A? It is called by main. So it will return back here. After it sees this, the program execution stops. This is the way how your program is executed generally. So your functions will have basic syntax rules like, what is the syntax of your function? Any function has syntax as return type followed by naming convention, name of function. Then it has number of arguments. This is the basic syntax of your user defined function. Depending on this syntax itself, we categorize your function categories into many ways. Okay, depending on the return type, depending on your number of arguments, your functions are being categorized into different varieties. The first one, we call it as a function with no return type and no argument. Second one is a function with no return type with arguments with return type, no arguments. And the fourth one is with return type with arguments. So always you remember, I told you we have two things, calling function and calling function. So the exchange or the value, okay, whatever the values or whatever the parameters which we are going to define in your user defined function, the communication between them, okay, that is depends on your return type and arguments. So if what depending on what type of communications between that is happening between called function and calling function is, they depend on the parameters like return type and arguments. So what does a calling function have to tell, so that what does a called function will give in return is the thing we have to understand. Always a calling function should pass the inputs. So that comes under the category of with arguments. Whenever you see a term with arguments or with parameters, arguments, parameters, variables, one and the same. Whenever you see these terms, these are the inputs we have to understand. Arguments are nothing but your inputs always. Return type is nothing but it is talking about your output variable or output value. Always your inputs are your arguments, your output is your return type. Whenever you are saying a function with arguments, you have to understand these arguments have to be passed from calling function to called function. Whenever you are saying a function with return type, that is a value that is exchanged from called function to calling. With arguments means if you are passing inputs, it is passed from calling area to called area. If you are saying that with return type, it is passed from called area to calling area. Okay, see, I'll make you more clear. If you attend for a function, okay, you get your return gifts, right? He is your called function. Okay, I mean, he will become your calling function, right? Calling function is a person who gives some food or something for you. That is nothing but your arguments. And the person who attends to that function is called function. So he will be expecting some gifts, right? Whoever is going to give. So that becomes your return gift to the person whom have called you for a function. So always your input parameters is talking about your argument list, which comes from calling to call. And always your return type is a parameter that is exchanged from calling method to called method to calling. So I'll take only one simple example and I will show you all the four categories how to change it. Okay, very easy to write your function examples. Okay, I I'll just show you a simple example because which is similar, because anyhow you'll learn a normal program, so writing function is easy. So I'll take simple examples. We'll write a program to check a number is prime or not. Okay. So first we are doing about category one. Category one is no arguments, no return type. Okay, category one is nothing but a function with no arguments and no return type. So whenever you are saying a function with no arguments and no return type, you can consider that as a function called or the method with a default name called as void. You people are writing void main, right? So whenever you don't have any return type, so your syntax is like this: return type, right? Then we have name of function, then we have number of arguments. So this is the basic syntax. So depending on this syntax only, your four category. So let's talk. We are talking to check a number is prime or not. So first you understand, to check whether your number is prime or not, you need only one input, and your return type is true or false according to me. Okay, if I get a return value as true, I say the number is a prime number. If I return a value as 0, I say number is not a prime. Okay, here I'll take two conditions, like um, so number is prime or not. So true, return 1, otherwise written 0. Okay, this is my thing which I want to use whenever I have something called as return type. So finally, we are using a function which does this thing. So category 1 is nothing but a function with no arguments and no return type. So how do I write? Always good, it's good to define a user defined function as a global access. So what happens is, when you define any function as a global access, any function can call it anytime whenever it is needed. That is nothing but reusability of code. Okay, whenever if suppose if I'm finding factors, definitely I need to find prime number logic, right? Prime number is calculating the factors also, right? So whenever I want to use the reusability of code, whenever I have a scope of using my code again, definitely the function is the best thing. That's the reason it's good to write your declaration of your function as global. So as the category 1 is no return type, no argument. No return type, I'll put it as void. Let's take your name of the function as prime, which takes no arguments. I can write it here as void, which is very similar to keep it empty. Either you can write it in this way, or you can write it as void prime of void. Both mean same. Okay, this is your declaration. Okay, this is your declaration of your function. You have a prime number which is of user defined function, which does not return any value, which does not accept any value. Now you can use your main method. So whenever you see a term no arguments, no return type, there is no communication that is happening in between calling function to call. Only function is going to call. So simply call prime, that's all. Because I said your function can be invoked when someone is called. Function is a self-contained block with set of statements. Those are executed only when called. So someone have to call a function such that it will execute. So here I have another function by name called as main. So main prime is called by main method. Why? Prime. This is definition. Always your declaration have to match to your definition. Line number 6 always have to match to line number 7. Okay, but you here this is declaration, and declaration will have a semicolon, but your definition doesn't have semicolon. That is also one more difference. So here you write the entire logic. Now, what your prime number? So how many number of inputs we need? Some n, comma I. So printf enter n, scanf present id, comma address of n. I got my input. Let's take I gave n value as 5. I have to check whether my 5 is a prime number or not. So how do I write? First, I'll find the factors. I is equals to 1, I less than equals to n, I plus plus. If your number is divisible by any other than 1 and itself, then it comes under the category of prime. I equals to 0. Okay. Then I'll make count equals to 1. I'll take a variable here, counts equals to 0. Sorry, let me make it as count plus plus. So then, if count equals to 0, 2, I will print prime, else printf not prime. That's all. So a function with arguments and with return type, you will with no arguments and no return type, you are just defining your declaration of your main method. In your main method, you are calling user defined function. The complete program you are going to write it under the prime logic. Okay, now what I'm doing here, count is a variable which is counting me the number of primes. So you know that whenever you call a number as prime, it has factors as 1 and itself. So if it has factors as only 2, that count is storing my number of factors. If its factors are only 2, I will take count equals to account. If count value is only 2, we can consider by default that it is a prime. Otherwise, I'll modify it is as a not a prime number. So 5 is a prime number. Okay. 4, it's not a prime. So this is a method which is used function with return type, with no return type and no arguments. So we'll change slightly. When your function is having with no arguments with return type field. Okay. So what is this is whenever you are saying a term as with return type, definitely there is a communication between your called function and calling function. So as I mentioned you, whenever you say it is a with return type, you should understand that is a value that is passed from calling function, called function to calling function. That is, prime have to give some return value to main method. So what you can do is, I can simply write here printf. Whatever the value is loaded, that I'm going to do. Okay, this is prime now. So what will I do is, I'll preserve that value. So I'll write. So I will preserve whatever the value I'm getting from prime function. See carefully, line number 9, whatever the value I'm going to get from prime function, that I'm preserving in a variable called as C. Now what I'll do is, if C is equals to 1, I print prime, else print not prime. Okay, this is understand here. So whenever you are saying with return type, the value which is coming from called function to calling function, it have to be stored somewhere. So that is the reason I'm declaring here one more variable. Or you can do one more thing. If you are printing the value directly, you can write this similar function. If you are printing the value of prime, you can write here printf percentile, whatever it is, integer, float or character. It depends on your type of function. I mean, which data type you want to use. I can call like this. Both are same. So if you want to print, you can do this. If you want to preserve, you can. Or in if, I can also do like this. If of so if I get a true value, I'll get it as a prime number. Otherwise, I get it as a not prime. So these are all possible cases. Okay. If of prime, if its return value is 1, it prints it as a prime number. Otherwise, it prints as a not prime. Okay, I'm not printing here. So I'm just preserving the value. Then I'm doing a condition check. Okay, if C value return type is 1, then I say it's a prime. Otherwise, not a prime. So this is the thing which we do, a function with no arguments but with return type. The remaining is same. Instead of here count equals to 2, instead of printing, I write here written. Okay. Otherwise, I written here 0. So now, suppose if you are assuming, okay, okay. Now you observe this program. So I have main. I have another function name as prime. This is a function with no with return type, no argument. So main is only calling the function prime. So some set of instructions are being executed. So it will return true or false. Depending on this true or false, main method have to invoke some set of statements. This is the communication that is happening between main and prime. Now when I invoke main, first prime is called. You will check. I gave n as 3. So you will check whether 3 modulus of 1 equal to 0. Yes. So your count becomes 1. Again, when I becomes 2, 3 mod 2 is equals to 0. Condition is false, so count doesn't change. When I becomes 3, 3 mod 3 equals to 0. Your count value became 2. Now loop fails, then you will check. Is count equal to you 2? Yes, count equals to 2, so I'm returning 1. What is the value that is exchanged from prime to main one? Now your prime will return a value as 1 to your main function. Now in your main, you have a logic here. That value of 1 is preserved in a variable called as C. If C is 1, you are printing prime. Okay. For example, I have n value as 4. You have count count as 0 and I again starts from 1. This loop. 1 is less than, yes. 4 mod of 1 equal to 0. So your count is 0. It changes to 1. Now I plus plus I became 2. 4 mod 2 is equal to 0. So count becomes 2. When I becomes 3, 4 mod 3 is not equal to 0. Count doesn't change. When I becomes 4, 4 mod 4 is 0. So your count was 2. Now count becomes 3. When I becomes 5, loop is failed. So you come out of the loop. Then you check. Yes, count is 2. Count is not 2. Because if it is not a prime, it has greater than 2 factors. So now your count factors are 3. So it will return a value called as 0. Now this 0 is passed to your main method and C value is preserved with a value called as 0. So if C is 0, if C is 1, you print prime. No, C is not 1, so it prints a number as not a prime. Okay, now you can see here. That is the thing which I am doing here. What happened? Okay, I didn't change, right? Return type. So it is an integer value. So I have to write it as int. And with return type now. So I'll give 5. In prime, scan value less than if count is 2, returns 1, otherwise 0. C. Okay. 5. So 5 is a prime, so you got the prime message. If I give 4, 4 is a prime, not a prime, so you got it as a not a prime. Understood everyone? Function with return type and no arguments. Anyone has any doubt? Just take a couple of seconds time. If anyone has any doubt, let me understand. So any program it is given, it is your choice of writing it. Go to the next category. Think for a while. By the time I'll change the naming convention. Okay, no more doubt. So see, the now next category is category 3. Category 3 is a function with arguments and it is with no return type. So I told whenever you have a method with arguments, always your inputs have to be passed from calling function to called function. So see line number 6, it is a declaration of your method. Void prime of int. What does void mean? It's not returning anything. So that's the reason I'm writing void. Name of the function is prime and with arguments is number of inputs. So you are finding a number is prime or not. So how many number of inputs I need? Only one input I need. What is that? I have to pass your input number so that on that number I'm checking the logic. What is that logic? Whether it is prime or not. So you see line number 9, I have defined a variable n. In line number 11, I'm reading the value of n. Now there is no need for me of line number 12 to be called like this. We'll write one more. Simply I'll call the function prime. See line number 12. Whatever the input you are taking in your main, first read the input, then you pass that parameter. This is calling function. Line number 12 is your calling function. Main is calling your prime method in that way. Prime is a method and n is talking about your input. So if you have two inputs, like for example, you're finding addition of two numbers, your line number 6 becomes void prime of int comma int. So how many inputs you need in order to complete your program execution? Those number of inputs you can send it from your main method, calling function to call. Now see line number 19, that is your definition, void prime. How many inputs it is getting? Only one input. So I'm taking it as integer mod. Now the remaining thing is same. So here we don't return anything. Instead of return, because this doesn't has any return type, so I'll simply write printf. Okay. Else not return. The remaining thing is same. Only you will read the input n from your main method and you'll pass that to prime function. The remaining concept is same. 5, it gives not prime. Okay. If I give 12, it's a not prime number. Understood, everyone? This is category 3. Now the last one is combination of both. Function with arguments and the other one is with return type. This is category 4. So you'll change. So it's not void. So how many inputs written? Int. The remaining. Now this is not needed. Still call prime function. So that prime in line number 12, when you call your prime function, that value is stored in the variable c. So if as usual, before we have done, if c is 1, we say that number as prime. Otherwise, we print that number as not a prime. Okay. So again, don't read the value of n in your prime function. Already you get the value of n from your calling function to called function. Just you'll write the remaining logic. So instead of print here, I will return. Okay, n is to be passed. Right, did I change it? Okay, here also into prime I have to modify. Not void. Anything else? I think that. Now if I get 23, 23 is a prime number. 45 is not a prime number. Yes, so these are the 4 categories of your function. Categories depends on your syntax of your number of arguments and your return type. Types of functions are only 2, library functions and user defined. Everyone understood till here? Anyone has any doubt? Let me know. I'll give you 1 minute time. Then we can go with functions with arrays and call by reference. Take 1 minute time. I'll pause for 1 minute. Then you can ask me if you have any doubts. Okay, I assume that no one has any doubt understood with all these. So let's see how. I'll just show you small definitions of how to pass your arrays to a function. So see, I'm just giving you one example under one category writing your program. Okay. So it's a simple program. All will take like passing the input and returning your output. Okay. Reading an array and print reverse. Okay. Okay. This is a method of category 4 with return type and no with arguments. I mean with return type and with arguments, because category 1 is easy for you because you'll just call the function, everything you can write there, right? So first, how many inputs? Only on one array. I'm fine. I'm taking one input array. On that input, I'm taking the reverse and I'm sending it to the main method. It is a one dimensional array. And one more parameter. So the first one is talking about so the first int of something is talking about your input array input. Okay, it is taking two inputs. What are those two inputs? One is your array input and the other one is how many number of array elements. Okay, these two I will pass from main method to the function array1, and array1 will return me an array back. Okay, we'll see how it happens. So here we'll cover two things. I'll just show you. Okay. So now you see, line number 3 is your declaration of your array 1. Array 1 is a user-defined function which is taking two input parameters. The first parameter is talking about your one-dimensional array. The second parameter is talking about number of elements. So in line number 6, I have defined n as how many number of elements you want to read into your original array ARR. The maximum capacity I have given for ARR is 100. So first I'll read the input from the user, like I will take the input from the user as enter n. I'll give n as 5, for example. So I'll define number of elements. Then I'm going to read an input array, enter array, I equals to 0, I less than. This is the way how you read. After I read the array, I'm passing, okay, I'm passing that array to a function. I'm calling that method arr1 of array comma n. Okay, so when I call this, automatically a control have to go and it have to return ARR. So we'll see here what exactly is happening. We will understand first. So this is the declaration and definition. According to my knowledge, something should happen. Let's see what happens. I didn't use I.
तो कहीं को क्या फायदा?
So it is asking n. Let's give some 4. So 12, 34, 56, 89. So you are getting what? You observe here, when you are returning an array, what am I getting? I'm getting the reference of the first location itself. So here, understand. When I'm trying to print, it is printing. It is printing what? The address of that memory location, right? For example, sorry, I have to write here. Why is written as process? So now you see, if I pass the base address, only the first address is passed and only the first value 12, 12, 12, it's printed, right? So whenever you are passing an array to a function, okay, so just I want to show you how to modify this. We'll see. So whenever you are passing an array to a function, so you are passing here multiple values, okay, you are passing n number of values to the calling function. Okay, so whenever you are passing n values to the calling function, it is very typical. That is, one method cannot store multiple values. So we can pass, but this is not the way. Okay, what happens is if I pass n number values at a time, that is you can't. They say that multiple values cannot be passed to a function. Multiple values can be passed to a function if you are passing multiple values to a function, definitely it should have some reference. Okay, so now I have given a reference here. I have written here, written something. I have written star of ARR. Okay, I'm doing this function. But when I do this return star of ARR, it is only passing the base address, and that base address value is only printed in this location. Okay, understand this. So whenever you want to pass a multiple values of a function, definitely you need call by reference model. Okay, normally call by value will not work here. Multiple values cannot be passed. But if you do give a reference to that location, you can even pass multiple values to a function. Now, how can we do that? How can we pass an array to a function? Is one second, I'll do that. It is coming with this error. Wait, I don't realize only coming. Where is it? Expected incompatible types. In startup, ARR. Okay, this one. ARR of one. This will take star. And then there is no need for me to pass you a start of this one ARR. Okay, this is a pointer star ARR. There I need something. I am getting okay, sorry. Star typecasting. Mm, this have to happen, right? Or else we'll do one thing. We'll call this function, then we'll print here array of. This have to be done. It is not great. 45, 69, 89. 45, 69, 89 only I'm getting. Why I'm getting the same array? Star, infant, again. This will become reverse and minus one star and minus one. Again, same array. Return array of one. Okay, let me try here. This will become wrong. Just 1 minute. I'll just see. It's a mistake here. Star, star. This is not happening while return star ARR shipping values. Okay. Let me print here also so that I can print it. We have a zero is written. Oh my god. Star AR coming. Okay, some zero is returning. Just wait a second. I don't know why zero is taken. In star. What was happening? Let's see. 2, 3 is I don't print it. 3 is only written. Also. Written. So 5,000 is starting a rewrite. Three percent. Okay. Three, three, one, one. No calling function communication is not happening. Written makes contact and integer with the type test. So much time. Not good. This is wrong one. Somewhere it's very wrong. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just complete call by reference first. I'll just hold on this program. I don't know why this is not coming. I'll explain you call by reference first. So, simple program for call by reference is swapping of two numbers. Okay, whenever you're swapping two numbers, like for example, let's take void swap int comma int. I want to swap two numbers. So by this time, I'll just think of that. We'll do this program. Void main. So this is a function with all the things. Okay. Now when you swap two numbers, you see how your call by reference happens actually. So I write int a comma b. Okay. And now I read two values of a and b printed. Enter a and b. Then scanf control string address of a comma address of b. Now I call a method here swap. So when I say swap a comma b, okay. So printf after swap, what are the values are there that have to be printed in my function? Printf a is equals to percentile d, comma b is equals to percentile d, quotations close, comma a comma b. So this is normally swapping of two numbers. You know how to swap in two numbers with third variable. So void swap int a comma int b. So I'll take a variable int c. There I write the logic. C is equals to a is equals to b is equals a is equals to b, and b is equals to c. So as I told, you can't pass multiple values to this function. Okay. So now this is void. For example, let's take this is int. Okay, and this is also int. Fine. So you can't pass multiple values to the function. You can't pass multiple values to the function. Now you see here one more thing you'll understand. This is a call by value. Whatever the values of a and b are there, you're passing that values to the method swap and you're printing those values after your swap. So even your swap logic works here, the values will not be reflected. Okay, the original values itself you'll have in this program. So you see here, if you observe, what happens? Scan it. Okay, fine. 4, 5. So even after swap, your value of A is 4 and value of B is 5. So why is this happening is you are not changing the values. I mean, you're not changing the value reference. I mean, the original values are not reflected. You are making the duplicate copy of the original values which are received from your main method. That is the thing you have to understand here. Okay, let me explain. What is this? Okay, now if you observe this, what is happening is why call by reference came. So I have the value of A as 4, I gave value of B as 5, I'm calling swap function. So the control goes here and we know that this is change. Even if you observe here, the values of A and B are modified. If I'm trying to print the values in this location, you are printing the original values. So whenever you are calling any function by call by value, the original values are not modified or they are changed. The duplicate values, that is, you are passing the formal arguments, they are not actual arguments. Always your actual, that is original arguments or original variables will be inside your calling function, and these are formal values which have been passed to your calling function. Now suppose, because this is the duplicate value, this A and B are local to this function swap, that is the reason if you are swapping those values, the original values are not being modified. So what will I do is, I want to have, this is your expected. So instead of passing the values, I'll pass it by a reference. So instead of passing swap of A comma B, I do here, instead of passing A comma B, I'll pass the reference to that function. So I'll pass address of A comma address of B. Okay, I'm not passing the values. So this is star A and this will become star B. And as you are making their pointers, here you will write in star comma. So whenever you are writing a reference, this is the way how we do actually. So your swap line number 3, swap is a function which is taking two input values as reference values. Depending on those reference value, you are applying your logic. If you observe line number 9, I am passing the address. Whenever you are passing reference, means you are passing the original contents of your A and B. What happens is now, as you are passing the reference, whatever the changes you do on the A and B, they are originally modified. So now you will get your expected output. You can see here. Okay, one second. Their pointers, no? So I have to write here star A. And this is star B, and this is star. So now if I give 56 and 89, your expected output is 89 and 56. Okay, that is difference between call by value and call. In call by value, the original contents cannot be modified, but when you pass call by reference, the original parameters also will be affected. Okay, that is a small difference I want to show between. So definitely, if you are asked a question by call by reference and call by value, you'll write the differences between reference and value. And this is the best example which you will show them in two ways. That is, by reference is one example and the other one is call. Call by value and call by reference, same program you will take and show them the different output. So if I pass here only A and B, observe here, if I pass here only A and B, if I try to print A and B values here, okay, if I try to print the values of A and B, okay, I didn't change them. Okay, fine. Star A. If I pass here like this is called by value. We are only passing the values. Difference means address. So this is a pointer. Remove them. Even arrays also I have to get. I'll just think of it for a while. So 5, 6, I get 5 and 6 only. Okay, call by value cannot change the original contents. The actual arguments will not be modified. Now simply if I change this to, so as the input is taking two input parameters as reference, that is as a pointer, you should know why I am defining there as a pointer, because pointer is only the memory variable which can point to the address of any another location. So here I'll write star A and this I'll make it as star B. Now here, so C is equals to star A is equals to star B equals to star C. So 56, 45. Now we'll get 45 and 56. Okay, so this is the best example if you want to talk about call by value and call by reference. Anyone has any doubt in this program? Let me know. By the time I'll just think of that array program. Why I didn't get. If anyone has any doubt with this call by value reference, let me think. Take 1 minute time. By the time I'll think of this array. Why I didn't get that. Hmm. What can I do? I would take one variable and I have to store them. Hmm. Instead of this, I can print index value, right? ARR of 1 until x control V, then star of array 1 is not working or what? Why this is what not working like this? Otherwise, I'll take one variable reference star 2, then I can write 2 is equals to this, okay? Then p plus I can do star. This is not needed then. Input is normal. I can take as array of 100. Then this have to work like this. Expected something what semicolon. Conflicting types of star array of 1. What is it? Star of array 1. It is conflicting star p or why it is conflicting star should work. It should work, no? Okay. This is array 1. Return array 67 again. Because array is not printing again. Oh, it's happening. Let's delete 12, 34, 45. Why is it not printing? Return pointer integrates typecasting star p is equals to array 1 of number of address also p is equals to array 1. Nothing is comparing to this. Why this is not printed? 10, 12, 34, 56 is coming back. Arrays printing, but not the arrays. It is missed. Okay, I'll just check this. Let me check it again properly. I'll just take some time and check that. So how to show that? Okay. So tomorrow I'll just show you this arrays and how to pass this array to a function with this example. I don't know how, somewhere I'm losing something, I guess. I'll just check it properly. And one more thing, tomorrow we will complete with structures also, structures and files. Most probably by Wednesday, all your important concepts which are related will be completed. And I'll share all your important programs which have to be discussed or which have to be gone by you. Means you have to prepare those programs by yourself. Okay. Already everyone have your lab manual. Most of you, everyone go through those lab manual programs for definitely, and which are very frequently asked important programs that I'll send. Just prepare for them. And it's good if you prepare for some sample programs. I'm sorry, actually, I'll check with this arrays. I don't know why this is not happening. And I will explain you arrays to a function and also structures and files. Most probably by Wednesday, we'll wind up with all the revision. So tomorrow, at most probably, you'll be having at the class around 11 and 11:30 itself. Okay. So thank you all. If anyone has any doubt, let me know. Otherwise, you can leave. Thank you all. Check what is this happening. Anyone has any doubt, let me know. I'll wait for two more minutes. It should happen, right? If we pass an array to this function, then why this is not happening. Start of